Hey guys, Jeremy Hood here. I wanted to show you a way to sharpen a saw. So this is called a ripping saw. You'll notice that each tooth, the tip is the same width as the blade of the saw. So it comes to a line, but it doesn't come to a point, if that makes sense. And I've sharpened this by making that line nice and sharp. But another type of saw is called a crosscut saw, I think. And you can notice that each tooth actually comes to a point, and this is a much more aggressive saw. It's harder to get started, but it cuts a lot faster when it does get started. No matter which kind you have one tooth pushed one direction and the other tooth pushed the other direction, and that's by design, so it cuts a gap in the wood slightly thicker than the blade, so the blade doesn't get caught. This is a different saw that used to be a ripping saw, so it had a flat line across the tip of each tooth. But now I've just sharpened it to be more of a crosscut saw. And the way I did that was I used this nifty tool right here. This is a handsaw sharpening tool. So first off, this little gap at the end is for putting on each tooth and then bend the tooth the direction you want it to go. Now it's a little bit thick for this saw. These teeth are pretty small. I don't know, I guess you'd have to be pretty careful. But what I noticed was when I was filing and sharpening these, it actually kind of tipped the teeth for me automatically, so I didn't really have to do too much in that regard. So talking about the teeth going in and out, like this tooth where my fingernail is right now is pointed toward us. This tooth is pointed toward us. This tooth is pointed away from us. So what I'm trying to do is, there's a perpendicular part of this tooth that goes straight up and down, and then an angular part on the back. So it's that front part that I want to angle to where the sharp part is the direction that it's tilted. So this one's tilted toward us, so I want the sharp part to be on this side, not that side. So what I do is that tooth that you see right against the file is one that's leaning this direction, so I want the file like this. So I want the filing part at roughly a 90-degree angle, and I'm pointed this back maybe 45 degrees. I'm still kind of learning, so don't hold me accountable for too much of this. So I just file that, not very much, maybe half dozen files or so. Of course, I'm just doing this for the video, but I was pushing harder before. So I did that. Now I'm going to try the same on this saw, just so I can videotape it and see how it turns out. So these are the two saws that I just sharpened. So make a decision based on my experience from these 20-year-old saws, so you don't ruin your good saws, to see if that's something you might want to do to your saw. So regarding saws, probably not a big deal. If you have the wrong kind of saw, just buy another one. But the real reason I started this experiment was because I wanted to turn this machete. Again, it's only about 35 bucks. It's not super expensive, I think anyway, I can't remember. But it's got a handle that fits my hand nicely, and I like that a lot of the weight is at the tip of the blade where hacking works really well. The saw is okay, but not great, so I'm trying to improve the saw a little bit. So that's kind of where I started with this experiment. I think what's happening, maybe my file's getting dull, but it seems to be taking longer. And this is my third saw in a row sharpening, so I'm getting more tired. And this is 3 millimeters, 1/8 of an inch thick, so it's a pretty thick hardened steel. So yeah, it's taking a while. The file is also very hard, meaning it's brittle. So I tried to wedge it in between two of these teeth and bend the teeth, and that ended up chipping the file. So, mistake on my end there. I eventually got this all sharpened. The file was getting dull, so I used the reverse side of it, the side that doesn't have a chip. But anyway, eventually got through. And you saw it cutting. I wouldn't do finish work with it, but for getting a branch out of the way, I think it'll be just fine.